So I'll be the first speaker for today. I hope you guys are energized and ready for the technical talks. And I'll be covering smashing SMS campaigns. All right. For the agenda for today, I'll be covering an inspiration for the talk. This talk essentially came from a real-life situation that we face in engagement, where we face a problem. I'll go through more on that later. And hopefully this research that I've done will be a potential alternative that next time if you guys face a similar problem, you can use it as an alternative. Right, so I'm from Secure Consulting, or formerly known as MWR. So we are a global cyber defense consultancy, and we have been doing work with tier 1 financial institutions. And these companies essentially allow us to have very challenging engagement. And through this engagement, we are able to develop very innovative solutions, such as this is one of them. We've been doing red team, blue team, purple team for a very long time. And essentially, this is where today's topic will cover more of where we face in the red team engagement. All right, I'm Samuel, and I've been starting to handle some of the red team exposure and experience, and I've been helping to develop tool sets to help out with red team engagement. Previously, I've also presented in InfoSec the City just a couple months ago, so you might have seen me there as well. And I've covered another presentation on red team tooling on persistence. All right, without further ado, I'll cover the inspiration for this research. So, as I was saying, this was an engagement that we're doing, and our target, it's a global financial institution. Essentially, our goal is to rob a bank, steal money, steal data. Before we even start off with the initial compromise, we were preparing multiple email phishing campaigns, small and big campaigns as well. The purpose of the small campaign were two goals. First is to target some of the high-value targets that we want to target. Second is that smaller campaigns allow us to build rapport in targets, potentially allowing us to get into the organization easier. We also prepared large-scale phishing campaigns as well, targeting more than 50 people. The goal is simply mathematics. The more people you target, the more likely someone is going to click on the link or click on the attachment, allowing us to get a compromise. Well, for those who are not familiar with sending phishing emails or in a red team engagement, there are multiple steps and multiple processes that is necessary for a phishing campaign. So, before the emails are even sent out, there is a need to set up infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about domain DNS, making sure that our DNS are categorized and are aged. The reason for this is because in organizations, outbound proxy tends to be used, and this outbound proxy will look into the sites that's being visited to make sure that they are categorized and they are kind of safe. We also need to make sure that our infrastructure do not have metadata and properly set up such that they do not fall into the usual blacklists such as SPF, DKIM, or other blacklists. The reason for such is because email servers tend to look into blacklists available online or blacklisted IP address, or potentially or to blacklist mail servers which do not have proper setup on the mail servers. So once all these are set up, during the sending of an email, there are multiple steps involved as well. In terms of payload, we need to make sure that the payload prepared have proper AV evasion in place. Organizations definitely use AV, our endpoint protection, to screen through these payloads that are being sent to the employees. We need to make sure that our payloads are specifically evading the appropriate antivirus in place. In terms of email content preparation, we need to make sure that our email content is prepared as well, because there are infrastructure in place that go through the content of email to make sure that there are not malicious email being sent to the employees. And lastly, in terms of metadata management, we have seen, of course, in engagement, if metadata is not properly managed, if we leak out some of the headers in the email headers, for example, or if we leak out some of the metadata in our payloads, this could potentially screw up an entire campaign. They could easily blacklist campaigns using this metadata. And lastly, after sending of the email, it's not all done, because we need to make sure to detect for phishing flagging or potentially detect investigation. This is because in organizations, there will be a phishing button in Outlook, for example, that could report a phishing email. And once that is clicked, our entire campaign might be lost. And that's where we need to start thinking and we need to be aware. Investigation could screw up our entire campaign as well, because our infrastructure could be blacklisted once an investigation happens. And before that happens, we need to make sure that we migrate all our existing beacons to another infrastructure to prevent losing these beacons. So all in all, what does this mean? Well, all in all, this means that there's a significant amount of time needed to prepare every single campaign. On testing of payloads, testing of email, all these require a lot of time. And this means that there's lower and lower ROI as people are more and more aware. I did a quick search on Google News specifically, on last month. So in just 1 month, there are 21,500 news articles on phishing. And you could wonder how many of them are unreported as well. This tells you how prevalent email phishing is as an attack vector into both organizations and for individuals. So as we start to think about the trend of email phishing being too prevalent, we start to think of on why it is so. In terms of people, as we have seen, employees and users are more aware of signs of email phishing. There are trainings being done by organizations to teach people the signs of phishing so that they are able to report them. This means that return on investment is significantly lower. In terms of process, more organizations are aware of the risks of email phishing and have set up processes to manage it. So this means there's detection process in terms of telling employee how to detect it, having infrastructure in place to detect phishing email, and not only detection but also response. Because end of the day, some of the phishing emails is going to go through, and they have processes in place to respond to it, to start investigation, to blacklist infrastructure, and also to make sure that they are able to act on a phishing email as soon as it is being detected. Lastly, in terms of technology, more and more detective and preventive systems are built around the email systems. The older technologies such as SPF, DKIM, and spam filters typically used to target spam emails can also be used for phishing email. The more newer technology such as sandbox and email inspection are also in place especially in enterprise systems, such that are able to test the payloads before they reach the user inbox, and also inspect for any potential malicious string within the payloads of the email. So looking into people, process, and technology, we have observed that it's harder and harder, or rather the ROI on email phishing is getting lower and lower, and we start to consider the alternative. Well, as we start to consider alternative, the first thing that comes to mind would be to conduct a cyber physical attack. This means we get someone down on site, either attack the Wi-Fi, put in USB dongles, or go down, act as a technician to fix a printer, but insert and put something malicious onto the organization. The pros of this is harder to attribute attack, because from a defense point of view, what they would see is that something malicious is being run. There is no digital footprint to trace where that attack comes from. There's also less telemetry on the attack source, making it hard to be able to prevent it from organization level. The cons is there is low ROI, simply because you need someone there, you need someone to go down, and there is also increased risk of being caught. So essentially making it not a very ideal way of conducting an attack. For voice phishing, the pros, it is easy to create rapport, because you could talk to someone, and try to act like you are trying to help the person, building the rapport, and then therefore guiding the person into running a malicious payload. The cons of this is it's difficult to conduct a large-scale phishing using phone call, because you have to spend a lot of time for each attack, calling everyone. There's also increased complexity to lead to call execution, because the person is on a call. The end goal is to get initial compromise. But from a call to initial compromise, there is multiple steps in place that you have to do. For example, telling the person, click on a certain button, type something on the screen, and that could be hard to achieve. Lastly, we also, or rather, another option that we consider is SMS phishing. It is easy to conduct on a large scale level, because it is similar to email phishing, except you just have to pay 5 cents per SMS, which is low cost in the whole grand scheme of things. The cons is the target device is not on network, and that simply means we have to get around it using other means. There are, of course, many other options to consider to conduct an initial compromise. But as we go through these options, one, perhaps Singapore's most publicized attack come into my mind. In 2018, last year, Singapore faced an attack on SingHealth, where some of our data were stolen. After the attack, SingHealth sent out SMS to people who are affected by the attacks, telling them to check out if their information such as mobile number, your medical information were affected. So I received an SMS, and now I have a kind of a quick game for you guys to think about. So I have 4 SMS here. I'd like you guys to think about and try to guess which one is the real message sent by SingHealth. This is exactly what you have seen on a mobile phone. You have received an SMS. So I'm just going to ask and do a quick raise of hands, see how many of you would guess the correct one. So how many of you guess that the first one is a real SMS payload sent by, or rather SMS message sent by SingHealth? Raise of hand. Nobody? All right. How many of you guess that the second one is the actual message sent by SingHealth? 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe 5 to 10% of people. Okay. How many of you think that the third one is the real one that is sent by SingHealth? Okay, similar amount, 5 to 10% of people, slightly lesser. How many of you think the last one is the real SMS sent by SingHealth? Nobody. All right. I have a surprise for all of you. If you have guessed the fourth one, that will be the one that link is the one that's sent by SingHealth. The actual fact is that I wasn't affected by this attack at all. I got a sample of this. This is a real one obtained from Straits Times. This is a real SMS that is sent by SingHealth to affected people. Well, the truth is, in terms of people, it is hard for people to distinguish whether the SMS sent is real or not. There's multiple reasons for this. One such is that it is a less used vector. People are not worried of it being used as a potential phishing vector. Secondly, it is really difficult to tell the difference between a real SMS and a spoof SMS. Just now was a great example of it. Nobody guessed that the right link, the correct message, or rather the correct message format, was sent by SingHealth. In terms of processes, few organizations have processes in place to monitor SMS. When there is no monitoring capabilities available, they are not able to detect potential SMS phishing, and they are not able to respond to SMS phishing. Lastly, in terms of technology, today MDM solutions generally do not monitor the content of SMS. And this means that there is no accessible mechanism for organizations to tell whether message, or rather whether there is a SMS phishing campaign in place targeting the organization. And this brings us to consider SMS phishing as an alternative to email phishing. Well, for us attackers, we tend to look into, especially in red team engagement, we tend to look into the cyber Q chain. There are multiple steps in place and multiple activities required before we can achieve actions and objective. For us, when we look into SMS phishing, we see 3 activities, or rather 3 steps that SMS phishing may be used to help us to conduct an attack. They are exploitation, lateral movement, and privilege escalation. In these steps, the activities that you could do using SMS phishing includes pretexting, delivery of payload, phishing for credentials, for example. Lateral movement, in terms of lateral movement, we are able to gain code execution using certain means, as I'll elaborate later, using SMS phishing. And lastly, for privilege escalation, we're also able to use it to subvert 2FA in critical systems. Well, that leads us to Tapit. Tapit is an internally developed application that allows us to conduct SMS phishing on a large scale level, and specifically on these activities that we've identified that is useful for us as an attacker to achieve our objective. The main goal is to automate pretexting, credential harvesting, payload delivery, 2FA phishing, and to automate it for a large number of people and to monitor the success of our campaigns, allow us to see how successful our campaigns are and to conduct multiple campaigns and automate them. So I'll go through the first example with you guys on lateral movement. So let us go through this scenario together. Let's say all of us are attackers and we have achieved initial compromise of and have beacon on one machine in the target enterprise network. We need to move on to more hosts to improve our attack surface, because once this beacon is detected and killed off, we are out of the organization. We need to try to get onto more hosts to improve our attack surface. We have obtained knowledge that HR regularly sends SMS to its employee with the alphanumeric sender ID of ACME HR. Also, we have backdoored a Microsoft Word document in the company shared folder, and we know that the company uses a shared folder to disseminate information. What are we going to do? Well, first, as an attacker, we could use the Tapit framework, essentially to create a text template. So we have put in hi, and it has a templating engine as well, allowing the attacker to key in certain variables, for example, and this could be changed depending on who the recipient is. Next, we will populate the victim context. We could import victims as well, allowing us to, for example, if you go into an organization, we could then exfiltrate using that one beacon, exfiltrate the list of employees the company has, and allowing us to obtain a large number of employees that we could target. And this could allow us to automate this process as well, targeting many employees in the organization. Thereafter, we will then set up a SMS phishing campaign. And the tool also allows us to monitor SMS phishing campaign and whether the delivery status of the different for the different victims. From the victim's point of view, the victims will see, hi Samuel, blah, blah, blah. And then for a victim, there's, like you guys earlier, during the example for Sing Health, there is no way for a victim to tell whether this SMS is real or is spoof. In this case, there is no way for the employees to tell, and employees will then visit this SharePoint file, which we have already inserted a backdoor on, allowing us to obtain more beacons within the organization. All right, in the next example, I'll go through 2FA phishing for Citrix. In this example, all of us are attackers. We have identified, we are already in the organization. We have done initial compromise. We have done lateral movement. Now we have seen one high-value target that allows us to gain access to the bank SWIFT network. For those who may not be familiar with financial institutions, SWIFT networks essentially is a network where multiple banks could communicate to each other to conduct money transfer, for example. So our target, so essentially by getting access to the SWIFT network, we can steal money, literally. So our target is accessible only through a Citrix host, and we have the credentials of the SWIFT user using key logging within the SWIFT user's machine. But the problem is the SWIFT requires an SMS-based 2FA for login. The problem is even if you know the credentials, we will not be able to log in because the 2FA only gets sent to the victim mobile phone, which do not have a foothold on. We have identified that the alphanumeric sender ID of the 2FA system is ACME Citrix. Well, we go through the same thing. In this case, our goal is credential harvesting. So again, we need to make sure that this automating mechanism for credential harvesting would be in place as well. So what we did is, within the application, we could put in the HTML for the credential harvesting. So in this case, we want to put a Citrix login page, which you will be able to see the view of the page later. Thereafter, we go through the same thing, setting up the victim, setting up a campaign. Once the campaign is sent, the victim would see SMS first, which is spoof from us on this is a successful login. Once the victim log into the web page, the victim will receive a second SMS from the real Citrix machine, or from the real Citrix sender with the Citrix token. The advantage of this is for a mobile phone, there is no way to distinguish whether the message comes from its regular sender of the Citrix token or from us. So what a mobile phone would do is to put them together. The victim would see the two different messages from different sender within the same SMS chain, and increasing the confidence or trust the victim have from these 2FA. Once the victim goes into this automatically generated URL, the victim will then key in the 2FA he sees on SMS, obtained from a real Citrix sender, allowing us to easily monitor it using the same monitoring page as we have the full logs of what the victim has done on the page. So all in all, phishing is dead, long live phishing. We have seen that SMS phishing, the prevalence of SMS phishing is being used, and the lower ROI of 2FA phishing. Essentially, there is other phishing mechanisms in place that allow us to achieve the same goals through other mechanisms. End of the day, human is always viable as an attack vector in certain steps of the Q chain, as we have identified earlier in the different phases of the Q chain. So I hope that this presentation will be able to give you a potential alternative to consider when we are conducting social engineering or conducting attacks conducting attacks on an organization. Right. Thank you very much.